Okay, so we'll get some housekeeping stuff out of the way and then we'll dive in to the topic of today. Hugely popular webinar, which we kind of knew would be because when we did part one, it went bonkers and people kept asking questions. So we thought we'd fire up a part two, which is today. Most people we've ever had kind of waiting to get in the door. So that was exciting to see. Hundreds of people waiting, getting here early. That does not happen often. Most of the time, we have to sit here and vamp for a couple of minutes while everybody runs from their last meeting to get logged in. Okay, so today we're talking about razor's edge queries, talking about WebView, background on us. Sorry, before I get there, yes, we are recording this. Yes, we will send you the slides. They will come to you probably by tomorrow morning. When you don't see them, look in your spam folder. We always send out the recording. We always send out the slides. And in the future, if you can't attend live, sign up anyway because you'll be on the list and you'll automatically get all the recordings and stuff. So just to get that out of the way, I know we got a bunch of new folks here today, so make sure that we share that. Background on who the heck we are, why we're talking about this. We all work at this great place called PSG. We do fundraising consulting. We run annual appeals for large multi-million-dollar clients, and we offer Razor's Edge administration, which is something we kind of fell backwards into, led by the brilliant people on the call here today, Andy, Stacy, Austen, Rob, and the rest of our team. We are behind the scenes the largest user of Razor's Edge on earth. We have a plethora of clients who ask us just to run the Razor's Edge for them because we've gotten so good at it, and they are good at it. They're great at it. So that's what we do. Many of you might know us because of our automation work, which is something, again, we kind of fell backwards into, managing all these large Razor's Edge databases. Stacy and Austen got really, really good at building automations out of Razor's Edge to help solve some really cool problems. And that word spread. So then we started getting a whole bunch of clients in that didn't want our fundraising help. They're just like, give me some of that sweet, sweet automation brilliance that you have. So we've been doing that for a whole bunch of clients, so much so that we turned it into its own division called Automate Genius. And Stacy and Austen are always grateful and gracious about sharing everything that they learned, like here at the last BBCon when they spoke to the standing room only crowd. That is us. If that sounds like you're in the right place, then welcome. What is Razor's Edge? Will make you think maybe I'm in the wrong place. If you need to answer the question, what is Razor's Edge? This may not be the webinar for you. Stacy, do we have like an intro to Razor's Edge webinar? Have we done anything like that?
I don't think we have. Maybe we should.
It's a big gap here. We kind of we appeal to the folks that have been in a spot for maybe a year or two, and now they're just realizing, what the heck did I get myself into? Razor's Edge, Andy, keep me honest on this. It's actually a couple things, right? So it started with RE7, and of course versions before that. That was the last pure database view. It was hosted on your own computer, your machine. Then they moved to the cloud. When was that?
In 2016. And I know that because I was one of the first adopters of what was at that time. People didn't know if it was NXT, if you were supposed to call it Next, the cloud, like the web cloud thing, like that was, they didn't refer to it as that. It was just like NXT, like Next, and people thought it was going to be like the next big thing. So, but it's called NXT.
And
you know what? The funny thing is, I'll make a quick joke here. It is Razor's Edge Next, but they're not quite finished with it yet. They're still working on putting the E in there. So a decade later, we're still waiting for the E to bake, I guess. I don't know.
They're getting there. So I imagine a bunch of people in 2016 thought, okay, I get it. So we're jumping to the web now. As most of the folks on here know, that's not what happened, right? So really what happened was you kind of straddled two worlds. You stayed inside of database view on the left, well, Razor Edge 7, which became database view. And then there was this new thing called the web view, which really was focused, Andy, on like major gift fundraising, frontline fundraising stuff, right? Like, is that fair?
Yep, for sure.
So power users, if you're processing gifts and pulling queries and lists and stuff, you're doing all that in database view. Web view has been over here. Where they're going, which they've said for a long time, but they're actually getting close to it now, which is why we have this whole thing, is that they're moving to a total web solution. So it didn't happen when they launched Razor Edge NXT, but now almost a decade later, they're like, okay, we're serious guys. We're really going over there. It's all going to be in one, which will have a bunch of advantages. And it will also make people nervous. Stacy, why does this make people nervous?
Well, mostly because people don't like change, but also because if you've been in WebView lately, you know there's a lot of things in database view that you use every day that you can't see anywhere in WebView because they're not there.
Change
And
is
if they are
hard.
there, if they are there, they're probably not called the same thing. That's also a reality.
Solid point. And we do have a solve for that. We have a cheat sheet that Austen has spearheaded for us that we're going to be giving away. So a little bit later in the webinar, we'll have a cheat sheet of all, it'll drive you nuts, but that's how it goes. All the things that used to be called something are called something different now. We will continue to update that cheat sheet and release it. I shared this for the folks that were here early too. I think that, so yes, Stacy, you're right. Change is hard, but also we've been down this road before, right? Like this has been promised and then kind of pulled back and promised, and like to the point that people are skeptical, that WebView will ever really be able to replace database view. So I get it, and they're worried that's going to be half baked, right? Like that's the concern, is that they're going to yank away database view before WebView is fully ready. I don't think that's their intention. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't think that's their intention. I think their intention is to build out the functionality, and we're in all of the EAPs, so we know kind of where we are on all these things. But it's happening, right? And we can vouch that it really is happening. This is not 2016. They put the resources into it. They've done it with FE. Now they're focused on moving RE over. Austen, you're up to speed on this as anybody. What's the short version of their timeline for this thing?
So they're trying to get this done by 2026, which I think is a pretty aggressive timeline for the pieces that still need to come over and are in development. And in all honesty, all of this information we're showing here is, from November. So it is more than a couple months old. And we know from some things that they said were coming in the end of last year that didn't. The timeline has probably changed a little bit. So there is an upcoming product update briefing in May. Highly recommend that you go and attend that. It will be 90 minutes, jam-packed information. Don't try to work on other things while listening to this. Just pay full attention, take lots of screenshots. You'll want them later.
So product update briefings are straight from the source. They've got Blackbaud. Usually it's the best and brightest at Blackbaud are there. We'll always, as you guys know from being on our webinars, we do tons of webinars. We'll always recap stuff, and we'll help kind of interpret and put things into English on what we're seeing, and we'll be candid about things that we believe and things we think might slide down the road. So that's it. Summary of the first 8 minutes here. It is happening. They are moving to total web solution. At some point, database view will be sunset. They haven't put a date on that or anything. But now is the time to start looking at WebView, not, Stacy, just because database view is going away, but because there are things that are better in WebView. Is that fair?
Definitely things that are better.
Yeah, and you can trust us on that because we do not give praise easily. We are grumpy people here at PSG, and we grumble, but when something is really improved, we will always give credit where it's due. So we're going to talk through some of that stuff here. You might be surprised, right? If you hadn't dipped into WebView for a while and you're kind of sticking in database view, you might be surprised about some of the good stuff. I want to, before we get to, so we're going to have Stacy screenshot and just walk us through query and WebView, and then we'll have tons of Q&A. Andy, it struck, you're the one that brought this up about how like one of the big changes here, it's not just everything moving to the web, but how reporting will change, right? So for a visual, for folks that are in database view, there wasn't a whole lot of built-in reporting in database view, right?
Correct.
Or
I mean,
RE7
and what was there was certainly not pretty. It was functional but not pretty. And much of what was in database view was custom reports. Maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we're talking to a lot of clients right now, Nick, that have, again, crystal reports. They built all these things as kind of a workaround because the functionality that many of them wanted wasn't kind of native to the product. And that's, go ahead.
That's the big twist here, right? So all the super users that were in RE7 or just database view, they wanted better reporting. They demanded it, so they built it themselves. So they did it through crystal reports or getting it out into Access or something, which put them way ahead of the curve than what was available. And now those people are seeing their houses burn down around them because WebView comes out, and suddenly WebView does have the ability to do some of that reports, some of that reporting natively. Whether it's just in RENXT or whether you're doing that Insight Designer module. Or even a lot of people are using the tool that we built that Stacy and Austen work in called Automate Genius to do this sort of thing for you. This is, I didn't realize how big of a deal this was until we started getting calls from people saying like, hey, we have a project. We have a giant report that was built by somebody who retired. It goes into Access and all these things or crystal reports. We need to rebuild it or the whole thing's going to break. Apparently that's a pretty common thing that's happening, Andy.
It is. And I think people it's just now sinking in with a lot of the clients that we talk to, you know, a lot of the people that we do DBA, you know, database administration for, people that are doing automate are kind of saying, hey, like I rely heavily on this, and will this come over, will it not? We can't say for certain that anything that you currently have in database view in terms of the custom dashboards, in some of those reports, and certainly the crystal reports, are going to, you know, integrate with the cloud-based solution kind of moving forward. So while you still have time, right, there's still sand in the hourglass on the top. You know, take advantage and start to kind of plan for, you know, what you need to do. And the biggest thing is, again, so many of these things were kind of cobbled together, custom reports. We joke about the Rube Goldberg machine, right, where like the boot kicks the bowling pin and it, you know, knocks over the dominoes, you know, all of those sorts of things. That was necessary at one point because there was no other solution. Now there's a much cleaner, you know, far more streamlined solution that exists in NXT. It might be an initial kind of a heavy lift to kind of rebuild some of those things, but once it's done, in some situations, we've seen clients have to like, are be able to cut vendors out of, you know, kind of what their budget is, because they're not having to rely on this vendor or that vendor to do this one thing that's part of a much larger kind of conglomerate of reporting solutions.
Yep. So out of WebView, I mean, you got just standard reporting stuff that you would imagine. When you want to do more intense stuff, you can buy a module called Insight Designer. That's where you can get the nice charts and graphs. Andy, what does Insight Designer usually cost?
Blackbaud's going to kill us if they hear me talk about this.
Do we need to avoid this? Do we need to like
I don't
glitch
know.
out?
So, I mean, it varies, right? But I think that in general, I would say people are probably paying around $2,000 for Insight Designer annually. Some are paying less, some might be paying more, but right around there. And we've seen finance offices actually benefit from you having Insight Designer too, because it does allow for some cash flow projections on recurring gifts and those kinds of things that are otherwise you're running a bunch of queries and exports to kind of get, hey, this is what we expect in recurring revenue for the entire year. Insight Designer does kind of push that out to you.
So if you have one of those monster reports that was built in Crystal or Access or something like that, and it's like starting to get wonky, this is a good time. Like, okay, I could keep patching this, or should I look at, can I do this out of WebView, out of what will become Total Web Solution? Is there an easier way? In many cases, yes. In some cases, you can get 90% of the way there, but not all the way. Like, that's just kind of the world we're living in right now. Automate Genius in terms of what this does for reporting, because I know we've got a lot of folks that use this. This is more of a tool, less about you creating dashboards and more about doing something like this. Like if you have a major gift officer and you want them to get an email every day with stuff that happened overnight, right? So this is something that tons of our clients are doing, called a daily donor report or daily digest. It comes out automatically every morning. I'm a major gift officer. I get this. It says John Allen just joined the President's Circle because they processed his gift. I'm going to click on that. And miracle of miracles, it actually wrote an email for me. So this is not really, this is sort of reporting blended with taking action, right? Like drafting an email for a major gift officer to send out to that donor. Again, not from inside a Razor's Edge or from like do not reply at charity.org, but from my real email, right? So that's something that we do for a whole bunch of people. We get a lot of questions on that. If you've been to our webinars before, you've probably seen samples, and we can share some in the chat here. Okay, that was a long wind up to get to where we are, which is let's talk about queries, running them in WebView, and then we're gonna take a ton of Q&A. Stacy, I'm gonna stop sharing and let you take over. And while you do that, for the folks, I don't know if I mentioned it, when you have questions, the best thing to do is hit the Q&A button, because that puts them in a queue where Austen will probably, as you notice, Austen's eyes off to the side, she's probably already answering 7 questions right now. So put them into Q&A, don't put them into chat, okay? Because if you put them into chat, we're gonna lose them. Q&A will actually keep track of them. And Austen cannot sleep at night if there's an unanswered question. So that's your chance to get in there. Okay, Stacy, what are we looking at?
Awesome. Okay, so last time, those of you that were here, we did a query scenario, and I'm going to do a different scenario for you today. So if you're interested in that, Rob put the link in the chat, so go check that one out. But just wanted to give a quick overview of the query screen and show you how to merge a query today. So my scenario is I have a gift officer who is making a trip to Nebraska to see a donor and wants to know what other donors are in Nebraska so she can visit some more people while she's there. Lucky duck getting to go to Nebraska. So here's how you get to query now. It's down here in analysis. You can also pop this little guy out if you like words. I like having more of the rest of my screen. But we're going to go to analysis and query. Keep in mind, this took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. So now that we're in WebView, you can't just like open up 6 constituents and put them all over your screen and compare them. The way to do that now in WebView is you right click on things and open a new tab, and then you have it jump up here in a tab, and you can, pull them down and resize them and look at things, etc. So keep that in mind, right click, open a new tab. So here's the query screen. One thing that I love and hate about this query screen is all these filters up at the top that help you find your queries. So twice in the past week, I have like sent a desperate message to the team, like, my queries are missing. And somebody said, Stacy, did you check your categories? No, I had not checked my categories. So if you're in alumni segments and you're searching for a query about something, like that has Nebraska in it, it's going to tell you there are none. And then when you remember that you're not in the right category, there it is, right? So if you come to query and you're having a hard time finding your queries, check if any of these boxes are checked, check if your categories are selected. You can look at all formats, et cetera, et cetera. Which might be why I couldn't find that query I was looking for yesterday, because I was not on all formats. All right, or all types. Let's see this. You guys.
I love live webinars.
Learning in real time.
This is legit, guys.
I guarantee this is the most useful webinar that anyone on here has seen. They're like, I feel seen right now that Stacy is doing this.
Figure stuff out in real time. Sorry, everyone. So my query scenario, let's create a new query. So we're going to do a dynamic constituent query. And we're going to start with, this scenario would not require merging, right? There's going to be people that say, Stacy, I don't like merging queries. It's dumb. I'll try to get all my criteria into the same query. I like merging queries for real complicated scenarios where you have a group of people with 89 criteria that you want to include, and then you have a group of people with 96 criteria that you need to exclude. Love making 2 queries for that and subtracting one from the other. So this is just how to merge queries for fun for those of you that like to do it. And if you've never tried merging queries, I think it's super useful. So that's what we're going to do, even though I understand this particular scenario does not require merging, just for kicks. Okay, so I want to find first all my donors since, let's say, 2020. So we're going to do gift date greater than or equal to January 1st, 2020. And that's all I'm going to put in this one. I'm just going to call this, I'm going to save it and call it recent donors webinar. And I'll put it in my important queries and we'll save it. Okay, so now I'm going to make my other query, which is going to be another dynamic constituent query for donors that with an address in Nebraska. Quick note on criteria, things that are in weird places, remember to check that cheat sheet for stuff that has had names changed. So custom fields, our attributes are now called custom fields. Things like fundraisers are called fundraisers now instead of solicitors and such. So if you ever can't find a field, it's probably in there with a new name.
And Stacy, why did Blackbaud decide to rename everything?
Great question. Anybody, just to make us all nervous and think that we're going crazy? Probably.
Just to make us all, really study up as we look at another view.
Got it.
All right, so we're going to go to preferred state equals Nebraska, where all the cool kids live. And we are going to save this also. Oh, this is not donors, this is just constituents. Try to be precise in our naming here. And I want this in my important queries also, and I'll save it. Okay, so here's how you merge. They're right up here. So we'll say new merge query, and we're going to select our queries, and we can either type in things, recent donors webinar, or we can click show all and do a search in there. And we'll do this one, constituents in Nebraska webinar, and select it. Now, merge operators. I don't know about any of y'all, but every time I do a merge query, I click on this little guy to see the little pictures. Now it does take 2 clicks now. It used to be easier to get to in database view. So sorry about that. There's a description with a bunch of text here that I find not helpful. And if you click on this link right here, it takes you to this page that has the pictures, right? So what I want for this one is an AND query. I want to know everyone that is in both queries. So everybody in this little segment right here, but or here, XOR, and sub is my most used kind. Okay, so we're going to do an and we'll say okay. And then this you will all recognize as the merged query screen, right? So you'll notice we have no criteria in this query. We can only do our output and sort options and then see the results. So let's go ahead and output some stuff. Always when we are outputting data in query, what do we start with? Class?
Cons ID.
Constituent ID. Or some other identifying item that is unique to that person. Let's put the name 2 points, gold star for Andy, by the way. I'm going to put the city and state since this is a trip question. So let's go to address. We have this cute little city state thing.
While Stacy's doing that, I'm going to remind folks, lots of questions in the chat. I promise you we're going to lose them if they're in there. Make sure you, even if you put them both, that's fine, but put them in the Q&A, and that way we can kind of sort through them as we go, because people are getting really excited by what you're doing here, Stacy.
Okay. This, we're going to put the assigned fundraiser name in here so we can keep track of who they're trying to steal, whose donors they're trying to steal on this trip. And then let's do a summary field because I like them. So we're also going to do total amount of gifts so we can see who is our top donors. And we're going to filter these on gift type. So we're going to do gift type one of, we're going to click the show all. And the way I like to do this is select everything. And then I'm going to remove payments. So I'm going to search for pay. And then I can now click clear all. And it's going to uncheck all the payment types. And when I uncheck that little guy, it's going to have all my pledges and cash and other things still included. So we'll go with that as a gift type filter for fun. And now we'll have in our query the list of everybody that's coming out. So one thing that's cool in here is when you are on the output screen, you can click this and change the column headings, which I love. So if you're outputting something with a super long name, you can change it, or you can say lifetime pledges cash or something, right? So that you can make those descriptions make a little more sense. We're going to sort this list by city and state for kicks, and then let's click on our results. Now, as you know, when you're doing a static query, it tells you you have to save it before you can run it. So we're going to say merged recent donors from Nebraska. And I want this in my important queries. And we'll click save. Now, important note about static queries and merged queries. You need to watch for this message when you are doing this. Until you see this message and click OK, the query has not been created, and the keys, the like little sticky notes that it goes out and puts on all the records, have not been created. So you've got to keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So now I'm running my query, and Razor's Edge is going out and putting sticky notes on all of these records to say, this is a recent donor from Nebraska for Stacy's query. Now, this can take some time, and it also is a little wonky. So I have had this happen a number of times when I'm creating a merged query that I basically nothing happens here, and I kind of can't do anything here, right? But I have saved this. And
Nailed it.
yeah. And if we save it and close it, let's see if we can find it. There it is. It says I have 97 records. So it did actually run the query, just didn't show anything, right? So let's go here and we'll try it again. And then I think they will pop up now. There they are. So, so that's how that works. If you don't get results when you're doing a static query, you have a couple of options to get your results to show up. You can go back to your output or your sort and change something. Like, for example, thank you, Carlene, for this tip that I had never heard of before yesterday, but she just goes back to Carlene Johnson on the call, everyone. She goes back to her sort and she changes it to descending and then ascending, and then go back, and then it will rerun the query, right? See, it's re-adding my sticky notes, and then it will actually show me the output. So weird kind of workaround, but you can do it. In my scenario, we got 97 results, and my gift officer said to me, that's too many people to visit. Let's do just people that gave in the past 2 years or 3 years or something, right? So let's go ahead and save and close this, and we're going to do this again. Actually, I don't need to save and close it because I saved it 1 second ago. Let's save it. Okay, so how we're going to change that is I'm going to go back to my recent donors webinar query, and I'm going to change the date range here. So let's change this to 2022, and we'll get more recent donors. So I'm going to save and close this. I don't even have to do anything, just save and close it. And then we're going to go back to my merged query and open this up, and we'll go to the results, and let's see what we get. So this is going to be a kind of weird little quirk that I want to make sure you guys are all aware of. But the way static queries work is they are not refreshed until you save them, right? So I open this up and it's still showing me the results from last time, because I said the last time I ran this and saved it, it was using the old criteria. So it's still showing me the results from the old criteria, right? Everybody with me?
Mhm.
And that's what we want it to do, because I haven't resaved this. I haven't told this static query, please go run again and get me whatever qualifies now, right? So that's what we want it to do. So do not panic if you see this. Now, one thing we've learned in the last little while is that the refresh button doesn't appear to really do anything for static queries. So just ignore this in static queries. In dynamic queries, it works great and it's cool, but I don't know that it does anything here. If anybody has more information on that, please let me know. So the way to actually get this to my new criteria, right, removing the people who gave kind of longer ago, is we're going to do the Carlene magic trick of we're going to change the sort to descending and ascending, and then we're going to click on results, and I'm going to get this pop-up that says after the query's been saved, etc. So I could either cancel and not save, or I could click OK, and it's going to rerun and should hopefully give me a smaller number of results. So let's see if it does. Ta-da!
Well, look at that.
So that is how you do this. So now this query has 6 records in it that it owns, right? And these are the people now that my gift officer will probably want to call. Another quick note, these never go away. These little pop-ups over here that says we ran your query for you. There were 97 records. So you have to click on this to close them. They're super annoying. Pro tip, click on the bottom one first, and then it just keeps moving them down and you can kill all of them. Okay. So another quick note before we move on to questions and whatever else we're talking about today. But static queries that you create just as a standalone static query work a little bit differently than this. So remember how the results showed the old results until I saved, and then it showed the new results here. Static queries, regular static queries do not operate that way. They will show you on the results page everybody that qualifies for this query now, even if you have not saved. So general rule of thumb with static queries is don't necessarily trust what you see on the results page, because if you're using that query somewhere else in Razor's Edge for an export or something, you may get different records from what it's showing you on the results in the query to what the query actually believes is part of the query, what records have the sticky notes. So please keep that in mind as you're using static and merged queries, that this page is meant to be helpful to you, but it might not be 100% accurate picture of what's actually in that query. All right. I think that's it for the super speed demo portion of today.
Love it. And Folks, we did a super speed demo here. If you liked what you just saw, make sure you watch part one. We spend more time going through. So this one kind of built on that, but we didn't want to just recap all of it again to get to questions. So Stacy did a speed run for us. I think, Stacy, there's probably about 15 people who are updating their resume to look for other jobs now. As you and then there's
At least.
450 people that are nodding vigorously and like saying, I finally feel seen. Like these are my people, this is my tribe. Like where have you guys been my whole life? Okay, so let's do this. Let me reshare. I want to walk through some bugs. Like you covered some, but I walk through some bugs, talk through Austen, what's not moving over to WebView, right? And then we can get to Q&A. And then I also promised that we would talk about donor cover. That's a big hot topic, the big changes to what Blackbaud's charging for donor cover. All right.
It's a big topic inside the company too. We're having some heated discussions about this in our Blackbaud Ninja meetings.
Oh boy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Is that showing okay or coming up? So, all right.
Yes.
Existing bugs. Let's do a lightning round through this, Austin. Let's not spend too much time on it so we can get to questions. I guess Austin or Stacy, I'll put them all up on the screen.
I have a comment on that first one. They do appear where they're supposed to. That's another example of Stacy not finding her queries because there's so many filters and I missed one. So I'm sorry, the slide is a lie.
Delete this. They are Stacey, this is so great because everybody on here is in the exact same boat. Like, oh my god, like it's hard because they're just building like what is a bug and what is like just they move something and what is like the new functionality. I love it.
User error. Yeah.
They fixed some stuff that we had up there last time, like not selecting a category with a new query. Still have a couple on there about can't select inactive stuff. I saw even in the chat people bringing things up. We're going to talk about where you can go to lodge your complaints or suggestions. What's not moving to WebView? This is where it gets a little bit beyond my abilities here. So Stacy or Austin, interpret this slide for me.
Mostly it's just sort of like the extra stuff that Blackbaud has, when they look at what they want to move, they're looking at usage. So the things that are not being used frequently or being used by a small number of people may not be moved over. And these are some of those things.
We're gonna have a net community funeral later this year, I think. There are some, BBNC users out there that are getting on their black attire and their veils and everything else right now. Yeah.
If these things are wildly important to your processes, go to the REX NXT idea bank and vote for the existing ideas there. That's where Blackbaud developers go to be informed about the things they need to add in, right? And Carly and Maya, they can add, all those ideas into the chat if they're able to do so. Another thing I wanted to mention is there's a page in the help doc that is transparent about what's not being moved beyond query. So for gift management, tributes, and event management, and I'm going to put that in the chat. Please go read that so that you're aware of the pieces they're not planning to bring over.
That's the spot where you go to find out, oh, wait a minute, this affects me. Like I need to go make some noise on the community forum or upvote or idea bank. Okay, so we'll share that in the chat. Things to look forward to. Ladies, whoop, sorry, I'm trying to go too fast. Ladies, talk me through this.
This is just where queries might be plugged in WebView in the future, but the product update briefing in May will have more information on this. Timing is sort of unknown as of right now.
Love it. The moment that some of you have been waiting for, the PSG cheat sheet. Stacy, while you were talking, there were 17 people that are like, where is the cheat sheet? I need the cheat sheet. Here it is, and this is updated from part one, and we'll even give you a little QR code. So we kept it last time just private to like, if you attended live, we'll share it. We got so many emails and people saying, hey, I need this thing. So here it is now. And keep in mind, if you didn't sign up for the newsletter, you should, because every time that's where we announce our webinars. Every time we do a webinar, if there's something relevant to this, we'll update and have a new version. So this is version 2.0. We probably should have color coded them or something. That would have been fun, but we would have run out of colors. So that is a cheat sheet. We'll also send this to you in the email with recording and the slides and everything else. But that is where you can go, print it out, tape it into your office or cubicle. Last thing before we talk about all the Q&A, and we've got 30 plus questions are waiting for you, Stacy and Austin. Donor cover. All right, so WebView has some new things like these optimized forms, which look a little bit less clunky, which are good, right? If you have something that the giving day and conversion is important and you just want something, streamlined, that's good. They're catching up with where others are on the online giving. Um, let's talk about these three things: smart donor cover, complete cover, donor cover. It's confusing as heck, especially if you're new. Who wants to field this?
I can take this. So
Austen.
the Smart Things donor cover can be used with Online Express to give
So,
donors the ability to give a little bit extra to cover fees, right?
yeah.
Um,
So if you're using Online Express, this is your guy right here,
yeah,
right?
it's a third-party add-in from
Yeah.
SmartThing, but it's free and it's very
Okay.
easy to set up and get it up and running in an afternoon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Complete cover and donor cover, the two boxes at the bottom, are for NXT donation forms. So they live in WebView, right? Very simply, donor cover is like what you would expect traditionally, right? Someone is giving a small extra donation to cover fees. This is based off of your Amex fee structure. So it's a little bit higher than what someone will be paying, say, through a Visa or MasterCard. The pro is it's what you would expect from this, right? It is opted in automatically. So if a donor doesn't want to do this, they have to choose to opt out, right? Complete cover is a little bit more complicated in that Blackbaud will cover your transaction fees for any donation up to $3,000, but your donors will be presented with a percentage structure to give an additional amount directly to Blackbaud. So the additional amount is not tax deductible. We've seen some confusion with our clients and their donors around this option. So it really depends on what your organization wants to do and what works best for you. But I would challenge you to consider both of these from a donor's perspective, right? And then make the call on what will work best for your org.
What lit the world on fire like 2 weeks ago? What did they change to
Um,
donor cover?
they announced that starting April 1st, so just about a week ago, they will be keeping the difference between what a donor covered and what the intended donation amount was. So that sort of broke the internet. So for in the instances of Visa, MasterCard, right, they give, I don't know, $1.50 to cover fees, but the actual amount charged is $1.35, and so Blackbaud will just keep the extra 15 cents.
And that was the announcement. I think I'm laughing. Susan in the chat, I think, hit it correctly. Like the way that it was rolled out, if we can be very candid, it was an email that said, "Hey, good news, we're making life easier for you. We know you've had trouble reconciling when we send you back the money that you're owed, so now we're just going to keep it," like in kind of like a patting on the head, like, "Hey, we're doing you a favor" type thing. And I think that's probably attributable to a fair amount of the frustration is like you're emailing me telling you make my life easier, and the result is you're just taking more money that we used to get, right? Um, Andy, let's not spend too much on it because everybody wants to talk about query stuff, but what's the 30-second version of why do people not like this is a healthy debate with all of our clients. Like, why would you not want complete cover?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue with complete cover is Blackbaud's not going to tell you how much the donor is giving to them. And so when you're sending out a gift acknowledgement saying, thank you for your gift of $100, and the donor's like, well, wait, I actually gave you $120. That's where we get a riff. And then to be able to explain to the donor that we didn't actually get that $20, that went to our credit card processor, and then they like lose their mind and they want their gift back and the $20 back. And
And the donor maybe knows a thing or two and says,
yeah.
"You idiots are paying $20 to process a gift. Like, what are you doing? This is crazy."
And so then they're kind of questioning your credibility and business sense. Like there are just a lot of challenges with that, right? And in some situations, a person's giving you $1,000 gift, and then it's potentially being asked to give an additional $100 or $150 on top of that for a credit card processing fee. That's a big ask for people. Like, so those are some of the challenges.
And you have to weigh that against, I understand the ease of like, you never have to worry about it again. Like you set up that complete cover and like, you don't have to worry about transaction fees. That's certainly a benefit to your staff, but from a donor perspective, ooh boy, you better like think that through.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Questions and answers. Let's dive in. Let's spend 15 minutes on this and then I'll come back and we'll share with people what we got coming up next and everything. So I'll even stop sharing the screen. Austen, do you have ones you want to start on? I know you marked a bunch.
Start at the top and work our way down.
Yeah.
There are a whole bunch.
All right, let me scroll up there. I'll facilitate here. Okay, our plugins coming over and queue. Do we know anything about that?
We don't know, and we suspect probably not.
Yeah,
Yep.
check out the product update briefing and ask a question.
Ask there.
Yep. Stacy, Renee wants to know, how do you get the quick links on the home screen when you're sharing your screen?
Can I share?
Yep.
Do another question while I get my screen up and then.
Okay. Austen, quickly, what's the difference between dynamic and static if there's somebody new to Razor's Edge and we use those terms a lot?
So a dynamic query means that every time you open it up, it will refresh constantly to any records that qualify for that criteria. Static is a single moment in time. So it will always revert back to the last time that query was saved.
Static isn't going to move around on you. If there's 100 people that you always mail to, it's a static query. You don't want to come in and find that there's suddenly 130 people. Static is frozen in time until you rerun it. Yep. Okay, Stacy.
So here's how you do your quick links. You go to your home page and do customize page, and then you go to quick links and you can add it here. And I don't remember how to find them. Oh, this is where you just put a link.
Yeah, this can be a link to anywhere. It doesn't actually have to be a link inside Razor's Edge, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you could grab a link there. You can make favorite queries, which are their own tile right here. And you can select those here, I think, right?
Yeah. So you can select categories.
Oh, and you can also, to get those to show up, you go back to your query screen. Sorry, everyone. So you go back here and select it here. So you do add to favorites. And then it'll probably be on that little tile. But the quick links can be, well, we have to give it a minute. It's not there yet.
You have to select a category.
Where was that? There it is.
There you go.
So there's my favorite query. But the quick links can be anything. So you could do a link to directly to that query also. Lots of options. So
love it. Yeah, and somebody else mentioned too, like they're also rolling stuff out. So there are occasions where you may be looking at a different version of Razor's Edge WebView than what we are. Okay. Question from Ellen, can you merge queries of different types? I.e., can you merge a static query with dynamic query and or GIF query with constituent query?
You can merge static and dynamic, but it has to be the same query type. So it has to be constituent to constituent, gift to gift, that sort of thing.
Yep. I love Michael's suggestion in the chat that when you use those quick links, put a quick link to the Blackbaud voting site like there, and you're just right there. That's a great idea. Do you have a cheat sheet? Yes, we have given it to you. Do you have a chart on naming conventions for queries and public lists in WebView?
That's a great question. We do not. Think about the things that you need to know in your organization. So don't put things in query names like your initials because you can see who created the query. Don't put things like today's date because you can see when the query was created, but maybe always prefix or suffix with the project name or with this is a request from Susie or whatever it is. So yeah, definitely look at what you have in there and think about what you could do to reorganize. If anybody has a great naming convention for queries and wants to share, please feel free.
Yeah, we can explore it too. That'd be a fun giveaway too. Would you recommend random alphanumeric labeling?
Oh, my head hurts just hearing you say that.
Andy had some thoughts.
All right, we won't do that. Jocelyn asks, is there an easy way to pull the primary email address without getting all the other emails for the constituent as well?
There's not in query. There is in export.
Okay, not in query, yes, in export. Carrie asked, do favorite fields in query go back and forth between database view and web view?
They do, but they are sorted differently in WebView. So they'll be in alpha order in WebView instead of the order you add them in database view. So
Jennifer asks, dashboards. I'd like to see how to build a dashboard for year over year for these specific funds. Is this a place to learn? Actually, I have a poll for that. I have that same question. If I'm gonna launch this poll. So when Andy and I were talking about reporting and like how things used to be built in Crystal and now you can move over to WebView, we want to know, is this something, would you all like a webinar just on that, like on building stuff out, on dashboards, on standard reports, all that stuff in WebView? So if you think that's a good idea,
And
can you guys see the results?
yeah.
No, but I can see the chat, and
we
it's
can't.
great. There's people
But-
there that really want this.
But I think too, and Nick, to your point, like you talked earlier about like Insight Designer versus not, right? There are some people that are like, okay, like I will take the leap and I will start doing stuff inside of in the web view, right? But like, what are you getting or what are you not getting? Like, I think if we were to do a webinar, we would want to be able to kind of talk to people about, you know, what Insight Designer provides in terms of value add versus kind of the standard to help justify the expense for some people.
This is a first. So we've done a lot of webinars, guys. Andy, Stacy, Austen. This is a moment for us. We've done a lot of webinars. We've done a lot of polls. I don't believe we've ever had a poll where every single person is like, yes, please do that. So
there's some
perfect.
interest.
All 233 that answered it are in favor of that. All right, so that's funny. Okay, so we will be rolling that out shortly. Jennifer, great question. You're not alone. The world is with you. We will provide some of that insight. Question from Rita. What is Blackbaud's reasoning behind, that makes me nervous already, behind having both lists and queries? Does that question make sense, Stacy?
yeah, Austen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So lists are more for like very basic asks, like, oh, I just want to see everyone in this region, or just give me a quick list of all the gifts received yesterday, kind of thing. The more complex answers or questions will be answered in queries. So lists are really for fundraisers or front and office staff. Queries are for DBAs.
Yeah, and I think that to kind of the heart of why WebView existed in the first place, it was to give fundraisers access to things that they otherwise had to like walk down the hall and ask like the genius with the visor on and the cigar, you know, like for, you know, all this data. List allow a major gift officer, annual fund director to just, you know, pull some basic stuff. The kind of more in the weeds stuff is still left to the DBAs and the pros on the call here.
Well said. Our friend Laura, who I believe is in Des Moines, says, now the queries are in database, is it possible to create a list in NXT based off a dynamic query? Previously, you could only use static.
Not yet.
Awesome. Okay.
I think they're focusing on getting all fields in the database into query first.
Yep. Question from Joel, who's just curious, why doesn't preferred, as it's known in RE7, appear as primary, as it's known in Razor's Edge NXT?
Very, very good question, Joel.
No.
Great question. We're gonna need you to go upvote that madness. Elizabeth wants to know, Stacy, if Blackbaud knows that the list doesn't show up once you once you run it, then you have to go back.
You know, I don't know. I asked them about the data refresh thing yesterday, but I did not ask about that. So I will be letting them know about that one today.
Yeah. Is there, let's see, if there's more than one solicitor assigned, this is from Colleen, will the constituent be duplicated in the list?
Yes, yes, it will. So it'll run like any other query where if a constituent fits more than one criteria, you'll get multiple rows. So if they have 3 fundraisers, they'll have 3 rows, or if they have 3 something else, whatever else the output is in the output, it'll give you.
Which is why export is important, to help clean that up.
Love it. Okay, if one of Stacy's 6 Nebraska donors, good question from Joel, what if those 6 donors added a gift? Would the refresh button pull that new gift into the total lifetime pledges cash column?
I think so. So I have not actually tested that, like go out to another screen and add a gift to that record and then come back and hit refresh. I suspect it would. That's how it works in dynamic query. So I think that it probably would.
Okay. Austen, why would you use a static query instead of a dynamic query?
So I use it a lot in like, I'm updating records for something in specific and I want to hold a group of them together. so that at some point in the future, I can come back and see that snapshot in time of those specific records. In all honesty, I pretty much only use static queries as the output of merges. I tend to veer towards using dynamic queries more often.
This one's funny. I won't say the name. Somebody said, speaking of resumes, because I made a joke about resumes, is PSG looking to add? Yes, we're close. So we're always taking resumes. For the folks that have been on our webinars, you guys know who we are and what we do. We do get a lot of cleanup projects that take like nights and weekend work. We occasionally have like, we need to bring on somebody to do like sort of this full-time DBA stuff. Andy and I are close to filling the 2 spots that we had open, but don't let that stop you from sending your resume along. So no expectation like we have something for you to fill by X date. But if you're a wizard at this stuff and you feel like these are my people, like send us your resume. Like life's too short if you're working someplace that you don't enjoy, or that doesn't appreciate or know what it is that you're doing and pay you the right amount and all that stuff.
Which is a lot of people on this call.
Which is everybody on this call. Not everybody watching this call. You guys are all paid fabulously. Stop it. Jennifer asks, is there capability to build a report for consecutive year giving summaries in WebView? Does that make sense?
Not currently, because
Yeah.
consecutive year giving summary doesn't really exist. So if you need it to exist, go vote for the idea in the idea bank.
Love it. Allison asked, what will replace the query? Oh, I just lost it. What will replace the query control? That's what I use when committing to a batch, or will I not need to do this when donations are coming through NXT?
So query control report not planned to be moved. So you can continue to do that in database view for now, but you might need to come up with a different processes. Go vote for the idea that Carlene just put in the chat if that's super important. Donations through NXT, the batch control report, I think she might be referencing, that does not currently exist. You can get around it kinda by using a validation report out of batch in database view, but I think that's being planned for the batch overhaul that's coming to WebView this year. So come to the pub, there should be more information on that.
Audrey asked, when will export be available on its own in WebView?
Hopefully we'll find that out at the pub too, at the product update.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't think they've announced any dates on that.
Attend the pub. Can we have a webinar on donor report? Yes, we have that. Insight Designer. So the answer is yes. Like anything related to that reporting stuff, Insight Designer, we are absolutely 100% going to design something for you guys to walk through that.
And probably sooner rather than later, again, because of the runway issue, right? For whatever you need to recreate, we want to make sure that you're doing it now in case, you know, like hell freezes over and database view goes away by the end of the year. We want to make sure that you've got enough time to kind of get in there and play with things and rebuild it to have it functional before other things go away.
And I always feel guilty when we bag on Blackbaud as much as we do, with good reason. I just also want to reiterate, there are some things that are better, like we talked about. Like you will be surprised what you had to build out of Crystal, right, or Access from the old database view RE7 will be much improved by what you can do now through WebView, right? So that like that process, as painful as it is to rebuild something, and I know how it is, there's a million inputs that go into this thing. It's fragile, don't touch it, it works. But you will have many moments along that journey where like, oh, wow, this is really cool. This is neat. Oh, I can give my director that pie chart that he's always asking for. Like there's stuff that you can do. So it's not just panic, the database view is going away. There's also good opportunities there. So I just want to make sure that folks are, that we're being fair here, right? Okay, Austen or Stacy, were there others? I'm trying to not ask the duplicate. Lots of them are duplicate or asked, and everybody's asking about export cheat sheet we shared. Somebody asked about Automate Genius. So what we shared, maybe Rob can share a link in it. We've done demos. Automate Genius is our software product that we built to help build automations out of Razor's Edge to do things like send your major gift officer a report and let him click on a link that drafts an email to that donor, or helps you automations that run at night to keep your database clean, like find duplicate records or clean up phone records. That's all us. Automate Genius. We sell it. We don't feel it's too expensive. We've got a waiting list of folks trying to roll it out. So yes, if you want Automate Genius, that is not a Razor's Edge product. That is, or a Blackbaud product. That is a PSG product from Stacy and Austen and the team here. So you can do cool stuff there. Yes, it is an added fee. feel free to use it if you want. If not, we'll continue doing these free webinars for as long as I'm alive because people really seem to appreciate it. So every time we learn something new, we'll be on with the webinar teaching everybody what we're doing. All right. Well, you guys look, I'm going to plug some of the webinar. People ask about, what's coming up next here. Let me do this. Okay, so what's coming up next? A little teaser. We have something that we're not ready to announce yet, but coming soon, there will be a little thing called Blackbaud Ninjas that everyone's going to be super excited about, especially as I read through these questions and comments here. A lot of people are asking for what is to come. So be on the lookout for that. We did a huge survey of Razor's Edge users in our orbit. I think it was the end of last year.
In
and we
December.
asked, yeah, so like last November, December, something like that. So we're just slowly working our way through this, right? We asked what would be helpful. Everybody tells us. So we go and we design the webinars. I think you can put on this list something about reporting and dashboards and all that, replacing old reporting. So we're working through that. Just know good ones we have coming up. Our friend Lauren, who's so great, April 23rd. She's going to talk about keeping database clean, using automation to keep your database clean. And we've got, I believe, on May 21st, Lauren's coming back, and we're going to do this type of a thing, but in managing duplicates, right? So today we talked about queries and then a whole bunch of other stuff. There we're going to talk about managing duplicates in Razor's Edge web view versus the old way. And I'll put our
spring cleaning webinar, Nick. We intentionally put it in May because it's no better time to clean up your database than in the spring.
Spring cleaning time. Okay. Katie asked, do we know if the updates with WebView will affect any API connectors already in place? Katie, you have come to the right place. Nobody knows more about API connections to Blackbaud than Stacy and Austen.
And the effects of it.
We don't think so, although they are making changes to the APIs all the time. So there have definitely been some things that have changed or worked slightly differently. I don't know of anything that's totally died, even with like the old original connector and Power Automate or anything like that. So yes, probably improvements, hopefully not things being taken away.
Got it. Okay, last chance from the, there's still more coming in. Anybody see anything that they definitely need to get to before we let people go? We answered most of the burning ones.
Thing about export in WebView. So that's because they're separate things in database view, they're being developed separately. So export is currently in a discovery phase, pre-EAP. And so that's coming, but go to the pub for more information on timing.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I see in the chat everybody's saying thank you. Everybody's got to run. Hey, we appreciate all of you for all of your feedback, for helping us. We love our job. It's the greatest job in the world. We get to work with people that are really super smart. We love doing it. Keep coming to our webinars. When we ask for feedback, keep taking part in that and telling us what you think, because it helps kind of guide where we're going. We appreciate you all. Thanks for coming in. Always say hi at Blackbaud. If you're going to BBCon, make sure you stop by and say hi to us. We like to meet people in person after seeing your name so often here on the chat. So recording will be out tomorrow. It will have the cheat sheet link. It will have the slides. And we'll see you all on the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.